Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fandom Portals podcast, where we explore the fandoms that help you learn and grow. I'm your host, Aaron, and this week we're looking at the blockbuster hit Sonic 3. Brash and I discuss Sonic's leadership over the 3-movie arc. We look at Carl Jung's shadow self-complex, and we also talk about the delicate balance of trust in the film. We also discuss the performance of Keanu Reeves as Shadow. At the end of this episode, we also announce the winner of our February giveaway, so stay tuned for that. And we also outline some ways that you can get involved in the network to potentially win some goodies in the future from our network, the Geek Freaks Network. So as usual, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Fandom Portals podcast on Sonic 3. Hello, everybody. It's Aaron here from the Fandom Portals podcast. I'm here, as always, with Brash. How you going, Brash?
Bad yourself?
Yeah, pretty good. Not too bad at all. Today, we are going to be looking at the movie Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And the reason we're looking at that movie is because, as many people know, we do a Fandom Fact Face-Off segment in our podcast here. So each week, we challenge each other to trivia questions based on the movie that we're looking at and focusing on. And the winner after a 4-movie cycle treats the other to a cinema experience, and I graciously lost, so I shouted you to the cinema experience, and we watched the Sonic 3 movie. So excited to talk about it today, but before we get into it, we're going to do our gratitudes and our growths. I might start today. My gratitude is I'm grateful for rainy days, Brash. Rainy days because we live in a very hot place. When it rains, it starts to get a little bit cooler, and it's the only time when we can have real cozy kind of movie weather. You know, it sounds weird, but when it's raining outside, put the air conditioner on, snuggle up on a blanket, watch something good. It's just a great time, especially if you have surround sound because it feels atmospheric. Yeah. So for me, that's my gratefulness is sometimes here where we live in the heat, we get a rainy day and it's fun and it's nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. But it's always the days after the rain when the sun comes back out that then you're like, God, I wish it didn't rain.
Yeah, it's stinking hot and it's sticky and it's humid. Yeah, the tropics, people. We love it. My growth, I've been doing well on the bedtime front. I've gotten 5 days in a row so far.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. Signal applause sound right here.
Yeah.
5 days is pretty good. Been trying all January to get my bedtime down to, you know, a repeatable sort of time, more days in a row, and I've gotten 5 so far. So going for 6 tonight. So hopefully we'll keep on going with that. So you messaged me earlier about it and you were just like, yeah, not done so good myself.
No. Not anywhere between 12 to 2 o'clock is when I've been going to bed for the past week or so. So terrible for me.
Yeah, that you know, if you just scale it back by 15 minutes, maybe 11:45. Just aim for that.
I like even then. Like I think at one time I went to bed. I jumped into bed like 10 o'clock. Doom scrolled. Doom scrolled until 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, you got to be kidding me. How can I was just doom scrolling and I looked at the time. I'm like, oh, it's been 2 hours or 3 hours. I'm like, oh, great.
Yeah, man, it sucks when it gets you like that. Hey, because I can't say that I'm innocent in that regard because I've definitely doom scrolled my way to eternity before. It's all about balance. That's all we got to work out. What about yourself for gratitudes and growth, Brash, this week? What are you thinking?
My gratitude at the moment is work. My work has been, I've gotten a few praises on the work I've been doing at work, which is really nice. And even a few on the D-level. I don't think anyone from work's going to be listening to this because they're all old. But I've actually was sort of softly been presented with an opportunity for a promotion.
Oh, that's good.
Unfortunately, that promotion would take me to Rockhampton, so I'm not doing it.
Well, obviously, you got to stay here for the podcast.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
That's exactly it.
That nice can't afford to move. And I need to support a house. I can't leave the house.
That's fair, you know. Good to be considered, though. It's good to get that
recognition. I got considered, which was really nice. And so. But
congratulations, man. That's good.
Yeah. So, but I've been grateful. Like,
all good, man. All right, so now we're going to jump into our first takes segment. All right, so in our first takes segment, we discuss how we first encountered this media, what our initial impressions of the media were, and our feelings on the media after having watched it. We will also share some of our community's thoughts on this movie for those who've contributed to our podcast in our threads page. We can link that in the show notes below if you are a person who wants to do that in the future. So again, we are talking about the movie Sonic 3.
There's been a high-level security breach. And we need Team Sonic's immediate assistance. Project Shadow is far beyond anything we've ever encountered.
Shadow's story began a lot like yours, Sonic. But where you found family and friends, Shadow found only pain and loss.
All right, we got a rogue alien on the loose. How do we find it?
Start with the giant fireball?
I love it. Let's start with a giant fireball.
And the movie puts Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails reuniting against a powerful new adversary known as Shadow, a mysterious villain with powers unlike anything that they've faced before. With their abilities outmatched in every way, Team Sonic must seek out an unlikely alliance in the hopes of stopping Shadow and protecting their planet. And the unlikely ally, spoiler alert, everybody, from here on out, spoilers are going to happen. The unlikely ally is Dr. Robotnik. Okay, so you can go first for us, Brash. What were your initial impressions of the movie? For one, how did you first come about Sonic as a character or Shadow as a character, as he's a new appearance in this movie? What's your first takes of the movie?
So first, Sonic from Sega, like way back when childhood 3-year-old me playing Sonic.
Mega Drive? Do you have a Mega Drive?
No, I think the first thing I played on was the Sega Genesis.
Yep.
I think it was.
Yep.
But Shadow first was actually through a friend of mine. So a friend of mine, he really liked Sonic. I was in high school, and he was like, "Oh, dude, you should check out this game." It was like, "Oh no, game? Yeah, game." It was like the very first like Shadow game, or game that had Shadow in it, or was it a game about Shadow?
Yeah, I think that was on the original Xbox. I remember. I can see the cover in my brain. It's got Shadow standing there, sort of in flames, and he's holding a gun.
Yeah. He's got guns and and he showed me. He's like, "This dude is so cool." Because that's right. He showed me one of those music videos that people put up on YouTube where they have like clips of like the game or movie or whatever, and then music videos.
Music videos, yeah.
That was the first time I saw Shadow.
Yeah. Funny story about that game, actually. Jeff Fowler, the guy that directed Sonic 1, 2, and 3, he was a visual effects artist on that game. That was like his first ever visual effects job.
Really?
So he has a really special place in his heart for Shadow. And he said like he's so honored to actually bring Shadow to the big screen because of where he got his start. And he did that for the Japanese studio he was working for at the time. So, man, that's a throwback.
Cool. That is cool.
Yeah.
So that was probably the first time I encountered Sonic and Shadow. I honestly did not know about this movie at all until we sort of were talking about it.
Go on to see one.
Yeah, well, because I know at the end of Sonic 2, you see Shadow.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that'd be so cool when they decided to do that movie. And then all of a sudden, here's Sonic 3 out at cinemas. And I was like, when the fuck did this happen?
Yeah, that was quick. That was awesome.
Like, what the hell? I'm like, I didn't even realize, I didn't see any trailers or anything. I just all of a sudden was like, hey, look, Sonic 3's out. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the same for me too, because prior to this, I saw interviews where Jim Carrey was actually talking about his retirement.
Yeah.
And obviously knowing that the Sonic franchise was the last one he was doing, I thought, that's going to look a bit different for how Sonic 3 or 4 or however many they do turns out, because obviously they're out without their primary antagonist. So it kind of took me by surprise a little bit too in that regard. Yeah, it snuck up on everybody. But what were your initial impressions of the movie after we watched it? What did you think?
Actually, really liked it. I reckon it's my favorite one out of all three.
Yeah, I think so too. For me, it's definitely my favorite one. For me, my first takes of Sonic, again, I played it on Sega with my brothers. Sonic 2 was the first one that we played. And I always come back to Sonic games being the games that kind of frustrate me the most, because I'm very much a completionist and I like platformers, because you know that if you're moving forward, everything you've done behind you is completed. And when you're playing a Sonic game, it's like all around the place. Like,
and if you miss something, you missed it.
Yep, exactly right. So that was a really big irking point for me when playing Sonic, but I loved I'm not sure what one it was on, but do you remember the Sonic game where you'd be walking down the tube and you'd have to dodge all the balls that were coming towards you?
Yeah.
And one of them would have tails and you could go up the half pipe and things like that. That was the game that I played probably heaps and heaps and heaps as a kid on the Sega. So that was my first sort of pick out for Sonic. And for Shadow, I first encountered Shadow, didn't know he existed at all. First time I ever encountered Sonic was in Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games.
Shadow.
Yeah, Shadow. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. And he was he was a character in that.
Yeah.
And then I went down the rabbit hole after I realized how cool he was and how awesome he looked and how edgy he stood. And as a teenager, you look at him, it's like, I relate to Shadow so much.
Yeah, and like the Shadow game, like not spoiler alert for Maria, brutal.
Yeah,
absolutely brutal.
Yeah,
and
I did some reading on it as well because I never played the game, but I've seen the cover art and I've seen it around in different sort of clips and things like that. But they actually seem like they kind of stayed pretty faithful to Shadow's backstory in this movie.
Oh yeah. In more or less.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. But yeah, those sorts of games were kind of big and popular at the time because they had Jak and Daxter, which is kind of very similar, running, and Jak and Daxter 2 especially, going around the city, running and gunning, that kind of thing. So yeah, I can see how this character of Shadow definitely became like a fan favorite, and him being teased at the end of Sonic 2, I think the American cinema experience is different to the Australian one, because in an Australian cinema, when you're watching a movie, there's that etiquette, everybody's kind of quiet, and you see something and you're just like, oh wow, that's cool. But in America, apparently they like jump around and call out at the screen. It's a big whole experience.
Yeah.
And when Shadow's there at the end, apparently it just erupted. So
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, he's very popular.
Yeah.
And the director Jeff Fowler also said, the funnest part about directing these movies is being in the cinema when that 2-minute end scene happens, because you can see the excitement for what's coming, and people want to see more, and you go and it makes you want to go and make the movie again.
And it kind of makes me want to go to see a American cinema experience and just have a look, because I do find that they get a bit more excited.
Interactive almost, aren't they? Yeah. No, we get told to be silent in those movie cinemas. So it's actually a faux pas.
to make too much noise.
You got to be quiet, when you're going in and out. But yeah, so I also like the movie. I definitely think it's my favorite of the trilogy. So, and the Knuckles series is up there as well for me. So I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't finished that yet. I got like 4 episodes in and was like, it definitely could have been a movie, because the first episode and the last episode, you could literally smush them together, and everything in the middle is kind of just like road trip fun.
Yeah.
But I love Knuckles, and I love seeing Idris Elba.
Knuckles is generally my favorite character.
He's my favorite, yeah.
Because like, I don't know if you've seen the Sonic Go TV show, but where like Knuckles is my favorite in it. I don't know how many times I've watched the compilation of Knuckles parts in that show when he's like, when they're trying to like decipher something or read something, he's like, let me have a look. And he pulls it, gets some glasses out, puts some glasses on, goes, oh right, I can't read. And like, he's such a funny character, so funny, and I love that.
Yeah, but his dry witticisms get me a lot, especially with his voice being Idris Elba's voice. I'm just like that, and he's really staunch and proud as a warrior. And yeah, when he's just knocked down a peg, he's still hitting that pride moment. He doesn't take a step back. He's good. Yeah, I like it. All right. So we do have some social media responses for Sonic 3, and this one comes from Challenge Accepted, the podcast that is hosted by Thomas and Frank, our good friends here at the network, at the Geek Freaks Network. And they said Sonic 3 is another incredible installment in the Sonic universe. It has all the humor of the previous movies, along with a well-done tragic story for Shadow. They loved Keanu Reeves' voice and thought that they worked seamlessly into the rest of the ensemble cast. And they reckon they gave plenty of space for Jim Carrey to cook in the movie, which was good too. So shout out to you guys at Challenge Accepted. Thank you so much for your Sonic 3 review, guys. And if you like Challenge Accepted, or if you like Fandom Portals podcast and you want something very similar, Challenge Accepted is a really great podcast for you to sink your teeth into as well. So thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah, that's one thing I was wary about was Keanu Reeves.
Yep.
I thought he'd come, like his voice would come across too Ted.
Yeah. We might get into that in our MVTs, or if it comes up in our real deal when we generate. But yeah, I have some comments on Keanu as well. So stay tuned for that, people. It's coming. All right, but we're going to go into our Fandom Fact Face-Off. We're starting a brand new round. So here we go. All right, so this is the Fandom Fact Face-Off, where we ask one another a series of trivia questions associated with the Focus movie. The host with the most collected points from the Fandom Fact Face-Off segment will shout their opposing co-host to an all-expenses-paid trip to the movie cinema. Now, this episode is brought to you by the loser of last time's cycle, myself, and we're starting a new one. So points are clean. Everybody's at 0. 3 questions. Here we go. I'm going first, Brash. Are you ready?
Okay, yep.
Okay, so after their initial race at the start of Sonic 3, where Knuckles, Tails, and Sonic did the race that was distracting him for his birthday party, at the end of that race, Knuckles and Tails were sitting in a hologram sort of formation, and they had their arms folded and their foot was tapping, and that is a very common animation for the game of Sonic. How do you initiate that action in the game?
Oh, it's been ages. Well, my mind just goes, you just have to stand still for a period of time.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. You just stand still, and it's almost as if the characters are saying what's going on, and they face the screen, looking directly towards you. They tap their foot and they fold their arms. And those kind of video game aesthetics is all throughout these Sonic movies, and it's really exciting to see them. Even when Sonic crossed the finish line, you saw the goalpost spin around, and the sound of the coins, every time they get the coins, that ding sound. Yeah, it's all rife through them. So that's a point for you, Brash. Well done. Off to a good start. You'll go.
Well, I think I've already talked about this. I think you already know this one, but I'm going to ask anyway because I love this fact. Tails. What's his name and what is it a pun on?
Yes, I do know this one. Miles Prowler or Miles Power, and it's miles per hour.
Yeah.
As in like the sort of speed that Americans go to. But yeah, I saw that on an interview, and Ben Schwartz, the guy that plays Sonic, he didn't know. He was absolutely taken aback by it. Yeah, I saw that video. That was good.
Yeah, Miles Prowler.
Miles Prowler, that's it. Yeah. Okay, so scores at 1 apiece. Very good. Okay, here is my question for you. All right, so who is Sonic's favorite actor in the Sonic universe?
Oh, is it Matthew McConaughey?
No.
Oh, for some reason I thought it was Matthew McConaughey.
You get one more guess. I know why you think it's McConaughey. It's because you see him in a cowboy hat and flannel and all that in Sonic 1.
Yeah.
Very McConaughey-esque, but it's not Matthew McConaughey.
Not Matthew McConaughey. His favorite, because
I'll give you a clue. It's very meta right now for Sonic 3.
Oh. Not Keanu Reeves, is it?
It is Keanu Reeves.
Oh.
Yeah, so in the first movie when they're having family movie night and he's looking over the back of the couch, they're watching a treasure. And then it's kind of meta because obviously Keanu Reeves appears in Sonic 3, so as the voice of Shadow.
Yeah, I was almost going to say Jim Carrey, but I'm like, no, it's not Jim Carrey. I'm sure because I thought Jim Carrey, well, for a moment I thought Jim Carrey because of like Sonic's humor is very much Jim Carrey's humor.
Yeah. Maybe that's why they kind of work well together because they bounce off each other kind of well.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
But yeah, no, his favorite, like many other Australians and Americans and worldwide people, his favorite actor is Keanu Reeves. So there you go. Your question.
My question, I think I've already spoken to you about this when we went actually watch the movie.
Oh, good.
Maria. Canonically, not during the movie, like not movie wise, but canonically, has Maria die?
I don't remember. So in the movie, she is the victim of a laboratory explosion.
Mm-hmm.
I know she's a Robotnik. Is she murdered?
Yeah.
Is she killed by Gerald?
No.
Okay, well, that's my final answer.
Oh, you final answer? No, sure.
Yeah.
I'll give you one more.
Okay, one more.
You're on the right track.
Was she offered a dose of the experiment and then it overwhelmed her body?
No.
She
was gunned down.
What?
Yeah. So she was helping Shadow escape from, because I think in the original they're in like a space station.
Yep.
And she's helping Shadow escape, and the actual soldiers on that base shoot Maria, and Maria's got a gunshot wound, and ends up pushing Shadow into a escape pod.
Yep.
And launching him away, and so he's going like flying back from the space station as Maria's on the window dying.
Yeah, wow. Yeah. That is so
tragic.
Yeah, man. And you know what? My next question actually falls directly into line to that. So that's perfectly timed because obviously the game was meant for an older audience, and Jeff Fowler, the director, had concerns, as did the target audience, when they knew that Shadow was coming in. They didn't know how they were going to handle the edgier themes like, Shadow and his motorcycle, Shadow in general, the death of Maria, the firearms that are in the 2005 video game. He said he was going to be very respectful for the fans that they love in that kind of movie. And my question is, in that 2005 game, my question was, he acknowledges the risk of having this particular thing in the movie, and I already gave it away, but it's not his edgy attitude and it's not his motorcycles. It is
the guns.
Yeah, the guns. So I didn't word that question well. So you can get the point for that one. That's my bad. But yeah, I just find it really awesome that he cares about the subject and the material enough to know that his target audience probably needs I don't want to say watered down, but a revisit.
Yeah, because I'm trying to rethink now. He doesn't actually fire the gun, because he does hold the gun, but he doesn't. Does he fire it?
So Maria and Shadow. And now that I know you knew this, you're probably looking at it going, are they going to go there?
Yeah.
But but I didn't know what was going to happen. But I think somebody was wrestling the gun.
Oh no, sorry. I mean, the general who dies at the Japanese camp.
Yes,
he's
correct.
the one that pushes the gun away, and it hits the tank instead, and the tank explodes and kills Maria.
Commander Walters.
Commander Walters.
Yep.
No, when Shadow's on the ground, he's on the bike. He has a pistol.
Yep.
I can't remember if he actually fires it or not.
I don't think he does.
Yeah.
I don't think he does. But yeah,
At one point
he wrestles the gun.
Yeah, he does have the pistol. And I think he points it at Sonic. He doesn't use it, obviously.
Yeah.
But
yeah, General Walters wrestles the gun, and the gun fires, hits a tank, and then the explosion is what takes Maria out. And then it's done kind of tastefully as well, where you see long shots of Shadow and Gerald Robotnik over Maria, but you don't actually see any
anything you do see in Maria, you see sort of like that scuffed sort of like charcoal
face. Yeah. All right. What's your last question? Because the scores currently is 2-1 to you, Brash.
A character was meant to appear in Sonic 3, but they had to cut them. Who was it?
See, that's interesting because the cast is already getting quite inflated. Is it would it have been an animated character?
Yes.
Did they cast that character?
They have. The only thing is, I'll give you a hint. She sort of, she does actually sort of make an appearance already.
Oh, is it Amy?
It is Amy.
Yeah, in the end credit scene, she
was actually meant to come in midway.
Oh, really? Yeah. To me, her animation looks kind of different to the others. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the way that they've done the hair, or
I think it was what was cut out of the movie. But there's like a full clip of Amy, and they had to cut it.
Yep.
Because for reasons, it was like a mid movie part credit. She wasn't going to be in like the full part of it, but she was meant to make an appearance. She was meant to make an appearance and I think leave, run off, and then she would come back at the end.
Yep.
Because she was meant to come in, introduce herself, and then get all flustered around Sonic.
Oh yeah.
And because I think she comes and helps out, and then helps out in the battle, and then leaves because she gets all flustered around Sonic and leaves. And
yeah. I have mixed feelings about that. We might get into it a bit later too, but the amount of characters they're kind of bringing into this franchise now, it's good on one hand, but on the other hand, there's also some drawbacks. I feel so.
But honestly, they have to have Amy in there. She is like an integral part of. Realistically, Amy was there before Knuckles.
Yeah.
If we're being honest.
Looking at the canon for Sonic X, at least, yeah. But yeah, that's good. So the score currently for our real deal after 1 week, at the moment he's in the lead. We'll see how it goes next time we go into our Fandom Fact Face-Off. All right, this is our real deal segment where we randomly select a criteria or lens to view the movie through and discuss elements with the intention of finding out whether it can be rated positively or negatively. Each week we name the positive and negative criteria, and it will reflect a fun kind of element or focus for the media, and topics can range from anything from cinematography all the way to the character development, villain, or themes. All right, so if we're rating something as good, we're going to call it supersonic, and if we're rating something as not so good, we're going to call it the Eclipse Cannon. So let's get our first generated item up. All right, so the amazing generator has given us acting performances. Now, the first thing that comes to mind for me in acting performances is the live action characters, you might say, them being James Marsden, who plays Tom, and there is also
Jim
Carrey, who plays Robotnik, and Tika Sumpter, who plays Maddie as well. So they're the primary three sort of characters. For me, James Marsden and Tika Sumpter, I think it is always very fun to watch an actor who's acting against a character that's not there. Yeah. So at the start of the movie, when they're talking about their family scene and they're acting with such warmth, especially James Marsden's character, when they go back down into Sonic's cave.
I still miss her. You think Longclaw would be proud of me?
I know she would, Val. Because even though you lost her at such a young age, you didn't let your pain change who you are. In here.
Yeah. In my lungs.
Or your heart.
Heart, right. Yeah, makes more sense. Not lungs, heart.
That's the thing about life, Sonic. It's all about the choices we make. You're gonna make some good ones, and knowing you, you're gonna make some bad ones. about. As long as you remember to listen to your heart, you're gonna make the right choice when it matters the most.
The fact that he's interacting with an inanimate object and he's only reacting to the voice lines of a character that's not there, it's really hard to portray that kind of emotionality, and I think he did it really well. So for James Marsden and for Tika Sumpter, I think that they did a really great job in that regard for their acting performances. Although as the movies go on from Sonic 1, 2, and 3, I feel like their roles are being more and more and more reduced. And whether that's good or bad, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that at least Tom is a pretty important part to the Sonic character because it kind of grounds him in his familial values. And then we can't really go past the acting performance of Jim Carrey. And again, another challenge that actors have is when they're performing against a character who is in fact themselves, which is what he did when he played Ivo Robotnik and Gerald Robotnik in this movie. And his interaction sometimes, the lines would back onto each other. Like Jim Carrey as Ivo would say one line and then in the split second, Gerald would say another. So they've either edited that really well or Jim Carrey's sharp wit is just that good that he's able to, he's able to reflect upon himself and just react to his own audio recordings so well. So for me, for acting performances, I think I'm going to give this a Supersonic.
Hell yeah, yeah. I agree. I reckon like even what was her name? Kristen Ritter, who plays Director Rockwell.
Yep.
Agent Stone. I reckon he's probably like my unsung hero of the Sonic.
Lima Jube. Yeah.
He's so funny and like you just the whole time, like every single movie, you just feel for the guy.
Yeah, I know. He loves Robotnik so much.
Yeah,
and us as the audience is just wondering why. But yeah,
it's that toxic relationship. And you're like, dude, you need to get out. You need to find someone better, someone who's going to appreciate you. And then he does get his he does get his appreciation at the end, which is really nice.
Nobody makes a coffee like him.
That's it.
Yeah,
that's it. But like his interactions with Shadow, I really liked. It seems like out of all of them, like he had more interaction with Shadow than most of the other people.
Yeah, I think so too.
The acting is so good. And are we going to talk about
we can talk
the
about
light
that.
show?
Yeah.
Oh,
the light show.
The dance. I mean, in a way, I know when I was watching it, I was like, wouldn't the lasers bounce off and hit themselves in the face and they die? Because aren't these lasers meant to like dice things up and it's like bouncing off of the suits and then like as soon as that hits them in the face or something, they're going to die, aren't they?
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just amazing.
I know, you overlooked that.
I couldn't care. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
That's what a dance scene is meant to be.
Exactly. Not plot derailing.
Not Venom 3 dancing.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I was referring to when I said plot derailing.
Venom 3 needed to take notes from Sonic 3.
Yeah. This should be Sonic the Hedgehog, the Great Dance.
Oh.
But I agree, man. And I wonder how that was performed too. I want to see a behind the scenes on that one. How did Jim Carrey dance with himself? Because he did maneuvers there where he was leaning up against himself.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like, did they perform that twice? Was he performing with a double both times and he had to do it as Gerald and as Ivo?
Yeah.
Because, if that's the case.
Because I've seen other people, and you've done something good when it's replicated on other platforms, TikTok, Instagram
I
Reels.
think that's exactly why they put this in the movie, to gain that sort of publicity from Sonic 3.
And I've seen people who do that thing where they film themselves doing one dance and then they film themselves doing the opposite and then meshed it together. It's not as flush or as nice looking as the movie, but they do a good job. And it was one of those points where it came in a point in the movie where it was like refreshing the palette.
Yeah, I agree, because it was
just after you sort of learned about Shadow and a bit more about his backstory and how sad it was and the dark element, and then they sort of have to come up plan to stop their big evil plan, and it's sort of like all right, restart. Now we're into like the final chapter. Let's shake things off, get a little bit of groove on, and then move forward.
Yeah.
So,
and I liked that the purpose of the dance number was obviously them celebrating their entry into the security vault successfully.
Yeah.
And then, the USB scene as well, blowing that USB like we all did with cartridges back in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was great too. But I think, as you said, dance number was perfectly warranted in terms of the purpose of this movie. Whereas if we're comparing it to dance numbers in Venom 3, absolutely unnecessary. And you know what? It's just crazy that in 2024, we got two movies that had like middle scene dance numbers. That's just unheard of. But I feel like Jim Carrey was in his prime element doing this, and I really hope that he returns for more. I know that he said that he was going to retire, but since this, he said, I'm not really going to retire. I'm more taking like long, restful breaks between roles, and if something comes to me, on a good script that's written in gold ink, then I'll do it. And fun fact, when they were actually offering him the part of Robotnik for Sonic 3, they sent him the script and they printed it in gold ink. Just from their printer, they printed it in gold ink and gave it to him because he made that remark.
Yeah,
and he obviously came back. And he loves being around the cast and the crew, so hopefully he'll keep coming back.
Yeah, and there's a joke going around about him saying that he'd only come back for a really good role, and it's like Jim Carrey is going to retire unless he gets a really good role, and it's like
Dr. Robotnik,
they're dressed up in their outfits and stuff doing the dance, and I'm like,
that is a really good role. Though. I loved it.
That's
awesome.
He suits the role.
I think so, and it's almost like a return to form for him. Like he's returning to the thing that he was made popular for, and it seems like the thing that he enjoys and loves. It looks like he's having fun in the role, it's great to see someone who's enjoying their job and doing a good job doing it. So, yeah. And so for you, Supersonic?
Oh, definitely Supersonic. Yeah.
Yep. Very good. All right, let's get our next one. All right, now we're going to talk about the world building. So, world building is how they are building up the characters, the elements in the world to align with in this case, the video game or source material of Sonic. So, we spoke a little bit earlier and touched on a little bit earlier about how this franchise, the Sonic universe, is getting more and more characters. There are 4 CGI characters now in terms of Tails, Knuckles, Sonic, and now Shadow. We know teased in the end scene trailer that Amy and also Metal Sonic was revealed. So that's 6 CGI characters. I'm a little bit worried, Brash, that it's going to stop the development of new characters if they have to share screen time with so many others. Now, we have the benefit of the fact that obviously these are known characters, but you still like to see your characters developed well in the movie sort of sense. I read that Jeff Fowler purposefully focused on Shadow because he knew that character was well loved, and he also knew that his backstory needed time to flesh out. And if you're going for a concept like vengeance and grief, you can't really rush that in a story. So I feel like in this sort of space, the way that they're building their characters has gotten to a really good point here at Sonic 3, but I fear that they'll overdo it. So, and I know that in Sonic 1, they were talking lots and lots about Sonic being able to use the rings to transport to different worlds, and one of those worlds being the Mushroom Land.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering when the crossover to Mario is going to happen. It's on the cards. It has to, because these are 2 well-performing franchises, amazingly performing franchises. It'd be silly not to.
Yeah, well, that's where Robotnik went, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mushroom Kingdom, and then Knuckles found him.
That's it. So for me, at the moment, at this point in the franchise, I think that the way that they handled the new character of Shadow, and in the previous movie, the way that they handled Knuckles, even though he didn't have very much screen time, but he was then given the series to develop him as a character. So when he came back in number 3, you knew him a little bit more and you saw his development and you understood why he was making the choices that he made. So I think world building wise for me, at least for the Sonic characters right now, it's a Supersonic, but in 2 or 3 more movies, we'll have to see how that goes. What are your thoughts on the world building so far, Brash?
Yeah, I like what they did with Sonic 3 and how they did focus on Shadow. Again, I still have to finish Knuckles' show because I think having that Knuckles show probably fleshes him out a bit more, since he was there in Sonic 2, but I think they didn't really focus too much on him per se.
Yep.
Not as much as say like Shadow in Sonic 3. Like you didn't learn about any of really his backstory except the fact that he's a warrior from the Echidna tribe, and and that he's been tracking down Sonic because they've been trying to get the rings, because they're the protectors of the emeralds, Chaos Emeralds. But it's sort of the same with Tails as well, because Tails sort of came out now. It's like, hey, I'm Tails. I'm your best friend. I'm your best friend.
He really didn't get.
He didn't really get a lot either. But like, if you know Sonic, everyone knows Tails as Sonic's best friend. So going into it, like just seeing him rock up and then being friends, you sort of see it because in every iteration they're always friends.
Yeah, and that's kind of all you need really from that kind of character. But yeah, I liked how they gave time for Shadows though. I feel like that was important.
Yeah, 100%. But I feel if they are going to keep adding more CGI characters, they're going to have to move away from Earth and go back to their world.
Yep.
I feel like there should be a threat on their worlds that they need to go back and fix, where it could be all CGI characters.
Yeah.
And maybe Robotnik.
So, yeah, that might be a flip, isn't it? Because in the first movie, obviously, Sonic was the only CGI character and it moved into a very human world. So then it's moving closer to the more animated, with Robotnik being the only human character. That's possibly a way to do it, because as I mentioned earlier, the character of Tom and Maddie, their roles are being more and more and more reduced.
Yeah. I feel like they're Sonic 2, they were definitely reduced. Sonic 3, I think they actually
increased
a little bit.
Yeah.
I reckon, and this is just a theory, but I reckon that's because they may end up pushing them out to the side. So like, well, in this last one, we'll give you guys a bit more screen time.
Yep.
Because it may be the last time we're really going to focus on you guys or need you guys.
Well, if you look at the way that the characters are kind of going, the journey of Sonic through Sonic 1, 2, and 3. In Sonic 1, he was very much getting used to and being acclimatized to a new planet, Earth. He needed a friend and he needed a family, and he found Tom and he found Maddie. And then in number 2, Sonic was learning very much how to be a team player and how to work within a group with Tails and then Knuckles at the end. And then Sonic 3, he was almost more so leaning towards being a leader of the group. And that was very much epitomized in the scene where they were trying to break into the gun facility, and every single one of them had a different role. And Knuckles famously sitting on top of the Big Ben Tower, his role was to patiently wait until the signal was fired.
Until he had to break glass.
Yeah, until he had to break glass. And that was the most painful thing in the world for him. But that shows character growth for him as well, because previously he was very much a smash and grab kind of character. And now he's sitting there and he's waiting and he's performing his role in the team. But for this growth that Sonic's happening, that Sonic is going through, there comes a time in every family where the kids grow up and they leave the home. So that is probably coming for Sonic and his pals, because they're very much represented as the children of Tom and Maddie. So what adventure will he have now that he sort of is growing up and moving away from these people? And I think you're right. It might be a return to the green land or whatever they call it in Sonic.
Yeah, it could be because they've got the emerald, the
Chaos Emeralds.
Chaos Emeralds. It could be Rogue comes along and steals.
Yeah, Rouge.
Rogue? I thought it was Rogue. Rouge. Actually, it's Rouge, isn't it? Rouge. Rouge comes along and steals the emerald, like the emerald. The chaos crystals. Chaos gems?
Chaos Emeralds.
Chaos emeralds. What is wrong with my mind right now? God. Anyway.
It's all right.
Chaos emeralds.
I'm keeping it all in, Brash.
Yeah. Chaos emeralds. She could come along, steal them, and they have to go retrieve them. And it could be from the person who sends the Metal Sonics.
Yeah. Well, I think Metal Sonic doesn't really have to be developed.
No,
because he's a robotic character that's just an enforcer, really.
Yeah.
But what are you giving this the world building, Brash? Do you think it's going to be a Supersonic, or do you think it's going to be an Eclipse Cannon as we're looking at it now in Sonic 3?
As of Sonic 3, I want to give it Supersonic. As of right now, if they continue on Earth, for me, I think it's going to start going towards Eclipse Cannon.
Yep. Yeah, and I pretty much agree with that as well. All right, let's get our next one. All right, the next one is cinematic build-up. Brash, you want to kick us off for this one?
Yes. So, out of all the movies we've done so far, I think this one's had the best cinematic build-up. Where it fully, like, they go through and there's the initial, they're having a good time, fun, everything's great. And then, bam, threat comes along. They're like, yeah, we'll go kick its ass. They go there, get their ass handed to them. Then it's like, oh, damn, we suck. We need to get better. And then the bad guys team up and they have to you covertly try and find out what the deal is. They team up with Eggman and was like, oh, okay, let's go find out who the big bad is. Oh, it's my daddy or granddaddy.
Yep.
And then it's like, oh, we should team up because we're the same. But the big climactic, it all ramps up and leads up to the big, we have to stop a doomsday machine while taking on like hundreds of robots while we're yellow and golden and just destroying stuff. And, you know, and even in that, they take a moment to sit down on the moon and have a bit of a powwow.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a little bit of character, a bit more character development between the two, where Shadow is like, damn, if is what I'm doing something that Maria would not like me doing, would I seem bad in her eyes? and sort of Sonic passes on his knowledge from Tom that he gave him onto Shadow.
Yeah.
And
he says, the good thing about you, Sonic, is that you don't let the pain change who you are on the inside. Yeah, in my lungs.
yeah.
So Supersonic for you?
Yeah, I'd say definitely Supersonic.
Yeah. So for me, I think this movie follows a traditional sort of hero's journey arc, which was introduced by a guy called Joseph Campbell. He made the hero's journey sort of framework, and it basically shows how a character starts off in a particular way, how they're very safe in their space with the things that they're comfortable and what they love and what they know, which is epitomized in the party scene.
The birthday
party. And then a complication occurs, which causes the character to then be thrust out of that comfort zone and then make them grow. Obviously, this being the introduction of Shadow, being asked to help the world out now. So he's gone from, local Greenvale problems to help the world.
With a bit of disdain, though.
Mm-hmm. With a bit of disdain. Could ever imagine, even with the team that he's with. So all the lessons he's learned in the past aren't helping him now. So he's forced to grow on this journey through challenge and is eventually pushed into a final confrontation where he uses the Chaos Emerald to become Supersonic, and very reminiscent of like an anime kind of battle towards the ending third arc. The fight scene that Shadow and Sonic have in that, visually appealing, very satisfying in terms of how the story's running, and also something that fans and kids would look at and just, I can picture like mouths open wide looking at the screen, like is a really perfect sort of action sequence in these kind of blockbuster like movies. So for me, it's definitely a Supersonic. I feel like the hero's journey in this stage of Sonic's arc, he's still being challenged and he's still growing and learning. And the way that they epitomize that in the final arc with the Eclipse Cannon and that challenge, and then the allies turned, or the enemies turned allies, it's just, the perfect 3-act movie.
And like, I just said the visuals. The visuals are like when they're zooming across the earth, but as they go across the earth, you can see like it cracking and like lava shooting up out of the ground from all the spots that they travel to. Like their battle alone is slowly destroying the earth itself.
Yep.
And that's like what Knuckles and Tails warned Sonic about, like why he shouldn't use the Chaos Emerald, because it could destroy there's enough power there, it could potentially destroy the earth. He learns that, and then they work together to push the Eclipse Cannon away from the Earth into the moon.
Turn it around the other way.
Just take a bit off the top of the moon.
Yeah, that's it. We didn't need that part anyway.
Yeah,
no. I think for this one, for me, cinematic build-up is definitely a Supersonic. All right, let's move on to our MVTs. Okay, so for our MVTs, this is where we discuss the most important thing we learned from the media that we watched, and it could be something that extends our knowledge, or could be something that we apply to our lives. It could be something as simple as a piece of dialogue, or a thematic or moral lesson, to a technical piece of cinema that we wanted to discuss as well. So I might go first for this one, and I really want to talk about Shadow, obviously being a important part of this movie, but the concept of like a shadow self, because through the movie we look at Sonic and we look at Shadow, and we are positioned to view, and can't be helped but to view, the parallels in their life. And I think they even say it in dialogue at one point, he is you if you never found Tom. So Carl Jung sort of represents this as the shadow self, and it's represented as like a darker aspect of your personality, and it's often projected onto others. So you can see how Sonic is more optimistic and jovial, whereas Shadow is more brooding and vengeful and burdened with a tragic past. Even though Sonic as well is burdened with a tragic past, but the way that they overcome that is extremely different. And I think for me, that shadow self is analyzed quite poignantly in this movie, because it's right there physically for you to see. A shadow is what Sonic would be if he didn't have Tom, or if he didn't healthily deal with the trauma that he felt when he lost Longclaw. So the scene where he goes back to his cave at the start of the movie in Sonic 3, I think that was a reminder for audiences that, hey, Sonic actually also has a traumatic past, just like Shadow does, but Sonic dealt with it through love, kindness, and connection, whereas Shadow was forced to deal with it through repressing it because he was put in stasis, and then isolation because he was all by himself. And then once he did break free, the connections he did make were people that were perpetuating those feelings of vengefulness towards the tragedy that he felt. So he didn't healthily deal with his emotions, and as a result, he turned completely different to how Sonic wanted to interact. And I just really liked looking at how both of those characters sort of dealt with pain, because Shadow did it in more of a destructive way, And towards the end of the movie, as they begin to confront each other, Sonic, throughout all of the movies previously, has beaten the villains with his super speed. He's done it with his abilities every single time. It was made very clear at the start of this movie that he couldn't do that with Shadow. There was no way he could do it because Shadow was his superior in every way, which is an interesting concept to look at when you're talking about how he's taken a darker path and for him to be more powerful because of that. But the way that Sonic defeats, I'll put in quotes, Shadow in this movie was he used kindness. So he brought about, as we talked about before, the attention to Shadow that the person that he loved and the person that he cared for and the person that he's lost wouldn't appreciate the way that you are treating her legacy and the way that you are surviving beyond her. And, you know, that sort of raised a point to Shadow. And not to say that he's completely healed by the end of the movie, but it offered him enough of a point to think about maybe things can be different, because Shadow, when he's looking at Sonic and Sonic's beating the absolute crap out of him, and he says, you know, do it, I'm right here, it's what you want.
Go ahead, finish it. What are you waiting for? Do it. I'm right here.
You didn't let your pain change who you are. In here.
This is not who I am.
What are you doing? You won. Take your revenge.
There are no winners with revenge.
And then Sonic chooses not to. I think that perplexes Shadow. And it's the first time where he's actually seen somebody choose kindness as opposed to dealing with something in a more darker sort of way. So for me, my MVT is the fact that I think everybody has the potential to be both. Everybody has the potential to be their Sonic or to be their Shadow, or to live and see something through an optimistic lens or through a vengeful and dark lens when people wrong you. But it's sort of how you deal with that and the people and the connections that you have around you that help you to push through in a positive way or in a manner that serves you rather than upsets and damages you more. And that's what you get from watching kids' movies with an adult brain. But yeah, I think that connection that he sees Sonic have with his family, with his friends, and then when he steps away from that in the middle of the movie and he takes the Chaos Emeralds to do it on his own, and it's brought to his attention that, you know, now you're just like me, that's when Sonic kind of clicks and he then believes, I have to do this in a different way. So I think that's my most valuable takeaway for this one, is that we do have moments where we can choose, and we can choose to either deal with it in a way that promotes connection, or we can further those feelings of vengefulness and sorrow and brooding and shadow and trauma. So what's yours?
Mine is sort of in a similar vein, but more so trust. My most valuable lesson I got from this was trust. And not so much this, well, I thought it had a little bit to do with Shadow, but it doesn't. It's got nothing to do with him, really. It's got to do with both Ivo and Gerald. Straight away, like, he's never knew his family. Grandfather comes along and straight up says sweet nothings in Ivo's ear and goes along with it. Ends up turning out his grandfather's a genocidal maniac that wants to destroy himself and the earth. And then took him pretty much their whole relationship in that movie to then at the end when he's like, oh, hang on, is this thing going to destroy the earth? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I thought we were going to rule the earth. And he's like, no, we're going to destroy it. And he's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have gone along with your stuff then.
I shouldn't have helped you.
Yeah. And also with Sonic. Sonic has to learn to trust his friends, that they are there they've got his back, they'll help him out, and he doesn't have to rely on using a destructive force to solve the problem. He has his family that he needs to trust in.
Yeah.
I think that was my most valuable takeaway, that you have to be you have to be able to trust in people, but you have to be careful in who you trust.
Yeah, not blindly trusting.
Yeah.
Because they offer you something that you like. I really like that MBT because I see that a lot in Knuckles, in the character of Knuckles, because there is a scene in Sonic 3 where Sonic and him go head to head because Knuckles' primary role is as an echidna, and Warrior is the protector of the Chaos Emeralds, and Knuckles is the only one that knows where they are. And in a previous instance, if Sonic came to Knuckles and said, I want the Chaos Emeralds because I need them, then they may have come to blows. But there is an escalation, but then Knuckles sort of de-escalates and says, you know what? I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
That you're not going to use these in a foul manner, and I'm going to let you go and do this. Instead of fighting him and confronting him, he trusted his, quote, brother to do the right thing because he knew that Sonic was inherently a good person. So that was where I see that trust because, it's definitely there in a lot of different facets, but Knuckles as well. Very, very good MVT. I like it. Very good. All right, we're going to move on to Devil's Avocado. All right, so Devil's Avocado is our What If segment where we play Devil's Advocate. And we're going to take a story element or a character and offer a new take, and we're going to sort of hypothesize on how that would improve or limit the movie that we're kind of looking at. So in this instance, I'm going to ask you a question to start off with that Devil's Avocado, Brash, because I want to ask you, what does Jared Leto, Jason Momoa, Robert Pattinson, and Johnny Depp have in common?
Jared Leto, Jason Momoa,
Robert Pattinson, and Johnny Depp.
Well, they all have in common.
They're all very sexy. No.
Yeah, I don't know. What they all in common?
They all have in common. They were all considered to be the voice of Shadow.
Ah.
So I'm wondering, for my Devil's Avocado, we talked earlier about Keanu Reeves.
Thank God it wasn't Jason Momoa.
He was actually also considered for the voice of Knuckles when that sort of came around, and then they landed on Idris Elba.
I can sort of see that. I couldn't see him as Shadow.
Now that I've seen Idris Elba as Knuckles, I don't want anyone else to do it though.
Yeah.
So for that Devil's Avocado, it would be a staunch no. But for Keanu Reeves and Knuckles, if we're talking about Devil's Advocates here, I think for me, the best one of that bunch out of Jared Leto, Jason Momoa, Rob Pat, or Johnny Depp, it would be Johnny Depp for me, because I know that he kind of has that voice. He can play dark. He can fall into his roles pretty well. But would you prefer one of them, or do you think Keanu?
If I choose someone else besides Keanu, Robert Pattinson, 100%. Yep, he is an amazing voice actor.
Yeah.
Yep. He played the Heron in The Boy and the Heron.
That's right. Yes, he did. I haven't seen that yet.
And his voice, that you couldn't even tell it was Robert Pattinson. He was just that good.
Yeah, he's done some voice work, or he did put on an accent for his upcoming role in Mickey 17. And he said he based that off of Steve-O. And I listened to the trailer and I closed my eyes and I put the phone, the phone close to my ear, and I was like, he's kind of there, like with the Steve-O impression from Jackass. But yeah, he can also play sort of broody and dark because he's obviously Matt Reeves' Batman.
Yeah. Because Keanu in an interview said when he was trying to find the voice of Shadow, he's like, he couldn't go too high because then that would be too much in the realm of Sonic. He couldn't go too low because Idris Elba already has that deep, low voice naturally. And he didn't want, so it would be too Knuckles to go too low or too deep with it. So he's like, I had to try and find somewhere that was sort of sitting in the middle between Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah.
And hit that sweet spot in the middle. And I think he did a really good job. But in that interview, this is before we saw the movie, in that interview, he sort of does the voice. And all I could hear was Ted from Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm like, am I going to close my eyes and just hear Surfer Shadow?
Yeah.
I was like, and I'm like, I love Keanu to death, but his voice is very iconic.
Yes. That's what I was worried about.
And it's always sort of the same tone. Whatever he plays, you can he hides it fairly well in most cases, but you can always sort of hear that Ted.
Yeah.
The Ted in the back of the voice.
I think in this one in particular, I couldn't unsee the Keanu when I was watching Shadow.
Yeah.
And for me that was fine because he did a great performance as the voice of Shadow. And he was also Fowler said, the director, he was overjoyed to play Shadow. He'd seen Sonic 1 and 2 and to be a part of the franchise, he was just completely in. He was surprised that he was offered. So it's good that he was that enthusiastic, which means he'll be enthusiastic to return. But for me, I think it was just like, I could tell that was Keanu.
Yeah.
For one.
100%, yeah.
But to that credit as well, now that I hear Ben Schwartz, I can't not hear Ben Schwartz. Like that, as he plays Sonic, it's kind of, they're using their own voice. They're not throwing it or anything like that.
Yeah. Ben just sort of ups the optical and makes it just that little bit higher. But you can just 100% know it's Ben. And Idris too. Like Idris that's just Idris' voice.
Exactly. That's I
smooth,
think
deep.
Oh yeah. I described it on Threads one time as like a bottle of maple syrup being poured down an oak and chestnut tree in the beautiful green of the forest in somewhere far away. That's what Idris Elba's voice sounds like on anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like a sexy voice. But I think Keanu did enough, and I think he's different enough to continue in it. But
I reckon, out of all our ones, Robert Pattinson for me probably would have been the best, because I reckon he could have done a voice where you would have been like, who's the voice of Shadow? And you would not have known unless you actually saw the cast.
Yeah. It's all about the nuance when you're doing voice acting, and it's all about the way that you project or the way that you withhold your voice, because obviously you only have the emotionality of your voice to project how your character is feeling. So to me, I think that Keanu probably could have done a little bit more in that space, because a lot of the times when he was talking about, the death of Maria, and I know that Shadow is an emotionally stunted character, but I still would have liked to have seen or heard more from that voice to indicate some high and low feelings. So I think he was kind of monotone throughout.
He was the same voice the whole way through. Yeah.
And that you can,
even when he got angry in that, he was still that same voice.
Yeah.
Like he didn't raise his voice that much.
Exactly. So props to Keanu. I think he did a great job, but if we're playing devil's advocate, Robert Pattinson would have been great. Interesting to see how Johnny Depp would have gone, but I definitely probably not a Jason Momoa Shadow.
No, I couldn't see it. It'd just be, I really couldn't see that happening.
Yeah, no. All right, let's move on to our Fandom Portals Honor Board. All right, so this is where we rate the movie and place it on our Letterboxd Honor Board. The title that's in the top spot will, at the end of our podcasting year, be crowned the Fandom Favorite Staff Choice Champion. And this board can be followed and tracked for you guys on our Letterboxd, which is at Fandom Portals, and you can find that in the show notes below if you have a Letterboxd. So, Brash, currently our number one choice so far is Phantom of the Opera, and it's been sitting there for 1 week so far. The second place after Phantom of the Opera is The Nice Guys. Where do you think Sonic 3 sits on our list so far? I definitely think it's above Venom 3.
Yep. Where do you reckon it is? Because I think we're gonna be different on this.
Okay. So again, if this is different, if we are not 100% sure on where it's going to be placed, we're going to put it to social media, and you guys will be the tiebreaker. So for me, I'd probably put it above Venom 3, but below The Nice Guys, which sits in third place. That's where I'd place it.
Yeah. Well, we are different, but I really thought we were going to be different another way.
Okay.
Yeah. So I put it above The Nice Guys, but below Phantom of the Opera.
Okay. So I guess our question is, do we think that Sonic 3 is better or worse than The Nice Guys, objectively speaking? So I guess you guys in the Fandom Portals audience will be the ones that decide its placement, whether it is currently sitting at second or currently sitting at third place before or after The Nice Guys on our Fandom Portals Honor Board. But our winner on the Honor Board for a second week running will be the Phantom of the Opera, which is the first time that a movie that we've looked at has spanned across a 1 week,
multiple weeks
period of time. Yeah, I like that. It's good.
I actually I forgot about The Nice Guys, because I honestly thought you might have put Sonic 3 above Phantom, and I was going to say, ooh, no. As much as like Sonic 3 has like the action and nostalgia about it and everything like that, I was like, for me, Phantom was still like, if I had to choose to watch a movie right now, Phantom or Sonic 3, I'd probably choose Phantom.
Yeah, I think for me, Phantom was just the emotional resonance and the themes through that got me through it, as well as the stunning visual and the craftsmanship on the set design. I can't disparage that effort. Just visually, it was, and it's a nice and beautiful story. So it's still number one for me going forward, and we'll see how it tracks as we kind of progress.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, let's go to our sign-off. All right, we want to thank you guys for listening to the Fandom Portals podcast, and we encourage you guys to engage in our socials. We shout out our social medias most episodes, whether it be a Threads post or somebody who's liked our reviews on Letterboxd. You can find those in our show notes below. Our Letterboxd has watch lists on it, which you can do monthly along with us, and you guys can also have the opportunity to answer some polls, to interact in questions and posts on our Instagram and Threads. If you have something that's a little bit longer to say to us, or you have some feedback for us on the show, you can definitely hit us up on the emails, which is fandomportals@gmail.com. And we thank any and all feedback that you guys want to give and are happy to give us, because it helps us learn and grow, which is the point of this show. So this is Aaron signing off.
This is Brash signing off. Oh, and make sure you got to go fast, unless you're driving. Do the speed limit. Be responsible.
Great messages coming from Brash there. Thank you so much. All right, we'll see you guys later. Hey everybody, it's Aaron here from the Fandom Portals podcast. I am here to announce the February winner of our t-shirt giveaway. Again, we want to thank Frank from the Geek Freaks Network for making this possible. If you want to get involved in some of the giveaways that happen here at the Fandom Portals podcast, then make sure you connect with us on our social media. That's where all the announcements will be. And while you're there, make sure you go and follow all of the podcasts that are a part of the Geek Freaks Network. They often do giveaways, and they also produce amazing film and TV and pop culture content. So that is the Geek Freaks podcast, the Challenge Accepted podcast, and of course, our podcast, the Fandom Portals podcast. Okay, without any further ado, the winner of our February giveaway is none other than Megan from Vigilante Vibes. So we'd like to congratulate you. You will be receiving a shirt in the mail courtesy of the Geek Freaks Network and the Fandom Portals podcast. So wear it with pride, and we will catch you guys later. Thank you very much. See ya.